Welcome to another segment of the Governor's Games with the Governor's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports. And we're here to do Tour de Fitness, where we train PE teachers throughout the state in partnership with LAFERD, Louisiana Association of Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance, and the Department of Education. The three of us will put out the Louisiana Physical Activity Standards for the state of Louisiana, and now we're going to train our PE teachers on the best practices of physical education.
Today we are providing a professional development to PE teachers within the East Baton Rouge Parish School District on the implementation of the new standards, the Louisiana Physical Education Standards.
All right, I'm Lynn Williamson. I'm Supervisor for Health Physical Education for the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. I want to thank you for attending, either because you were excited to be back or your principal said he would really or she would really like to have you come. I think this is an exciting opportunity because in January, well, for a few years, we've had a vision to rewrite the state standards. So in January, with the help of Louisiana Department of Education, Michael Como, and LAFERD and some other teachers from around the state, we got together and started revising the state standards. They hadn't been revised since 2009. So we just revised them. Bessie approved them this summer. So they will actually, it takes 90 days once that happened. So October 1, these will become, the ones you have will become finalized. Okay, so they were passed by Bessie, but it takes the 90-day process. We're excited because we're following along more of the national standards. We had 7. Now we have 5 to follow along, and I think they're great. We worked hard. We had a great team, so I hope you learn a lot. Now, if you didn't pre-register, I will put you in the system later on today when I get back to my office, so don't worry. And if you're new, then I can't put you in today. It'll be in a couple weeks. I also want to thank Rudy Macklin. Where'd Rudy go? Rudy Macklin from the Governor's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports for supporting LAFERD. LAFERD was instrumental in this too. You have a membership form. If you want to join LAFERD, it's $60, but that's a $1 million liability policy. If I trip in your class, you know, and it goes further, you may need it. So, and also the convention is November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. We have the president, Bonnie Baker Richardson from Baton Rouge Flame here. And then we have Susan Grimion, the president-elect here from LSU Lab School. I'm the executive director. I just started in January, so I'm excited about that. We also want to thank DHH for their help in this. The PowerPoint presentation takes about 30 minutes, okay? Think about those times you're having these kids sit there and listen to the rules and the history of lacrosse or basketball. Don't have them sit, but we have to just go over it for 30 minutes. They should be actively moving. They should not be listening to 1921, something was invented or started. Who cares? It's important. But do that as you teach if you have to do that, okay? So we want these kids to be active and moving, not sitting, okay? I'm very passionate about that. Now, evaluation at the end. You all received an evaluation. When you finish, you will turn it in. If you pre-registered, you will pick up a certificate, turn in your evaluation, and get your T-shirt, okay? We have everything on line on LAFERD's website, or I'm going to put it on. I'll send you an email with this on there, the lesson plans. If you want to use the template, you're more than welcome to. Okay, so I'll send you that in an email. Mr. Drake, Superintendent Drake, is supposed to come, and he knows the importance of physical activity. He wants me to be more visual in your classrooms this year. If I see 2 classes combined with 1 ball, I have a problem with that because we're standing in line doing nothing. These kids need to be active. Research suggests, I can't talk. Research suggests that if they're active, they do better in the classroom, on tests, on behavior. So get them up, get them moving. All right, Kelly Simonton. Let me introduce my crew. Kelly Simonton is a PhD student from LSU. He will be doing the PowerPoint and doing the secondary lesson. Kelly, come here. Kelly, stand up. Angela Simonton, his wife, is doing the elementary component. She teaches at Magnolia Woods this year, elementary. Kaylin McKee is the instructor at LSU for the student teaching and the teacher ed program. Okay? So get ready, and we'll get active in about 30 minutes.
The Governor's Games 2017 Tour de Fitness. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Governor's Games 2017 Tour de Fitness.
All right, good morning. This is very uncomfortable because it does not help me get my voice out there. So if I set this down, I apologize. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the new state standards. Go ahead and flip it, Caitlin. Why did we change some of the state standards we're going to go over? We're going to review a couple things of why we're here and how standards are going to help you advocate for your department at your school. I've worked with about 4 states with PE teachers, especially secondary teachers, and then 2 things they tell me is we need more money and we need smaller class sizes. If we use standards to show that learning is occurring, we can start advocating for ourselves to make that happen. So that's another big push of why we want to do this. Ultimately, these standards are for the students. We need to show that students are learning. We should be here for the students, for all of them, whether they can't chew gum and walk or they're the all-star athlete. We need to be there for all of them, and that's why we did some of these. So things we're going to talk about today, like I mentioned, reasons we have the standards, goal of the standards. We're going to define what a physically literate individual is. If any of you keep up with SHAPE, you already know what that is, but we're going to review that. Grade level expectations, best teaching practices. This is going to be a main point today for our presentation because if we don't use some of these best teacher practices, we actually can't achieve the standards. And so that's going to be a main point. We'll overview the standards. We'll show you your booklet. The state and all of our other sponsors were kind enough to print everybody a booklet, which is pretty expensive, so that was nice. So we'll go to how to read those and things like that. And then we're going to show you resources. A lot of people are isolated. As PE teachers, I was a PE teacher, we are isolated. We're in the gym. Maybe there's 1 or 2 other people down in our wing of the building, and we don't have a lot of support. And so we're going to try to provide some of those for you today, too. So, as any good teacher writes, we have our objective today. You, the learner or the teacher, you'll be able to prepare, discuss, and apply the standards, GLE's best practices in everyday lessons. That would be the goal, is that you have gained skills that can do that. Now, all of you are out here because you're awesome PE teachers, and we all empathize with you. We commend you because it's probably the toughest job in the school. They give us 100 kids, give us 30 minutes, and say, okay, take care of it. So it's a very, very hard job, but hopefully we can provide with the standards and some of these practices and help you make that a little bit easier and show that students can learn. So we want to give you skills, not game ideas. We can find those anywhere. Anywhere. We can go to Layford, we can go to SHAPE, we can go online. You guys can find games, but the pedagogical skills that allow you to show student learning and to maximize the participation of your students come from teaching skills, and that's going to be one of those things that we talk about today also. So why were they created? Well, I think most of you know why we need standards. We need to show that students are learning. We should be taking these standard contents, giving them to our principals and our administrators, and going, we don't babysit. We don't just provide recess. We have students that learn, and here's what they need to achieve when they leave us. Just like they need to know math, science, and English, they need to be educated about how to take care of themselves. Highest obesity rates ever in history. Louisiana in particular has high obesity rates. Clearly what we're doing isn't exactly working. And maybe we need to provide a little bit more instruction and show these goals and give us a direction for our instruction. And that's why we kind of created them. It's for the student now, but also for the student into the future. All right? The goal of physical education is that we develop a physically literate student. They have knowledge, skills, confidence, they understand the material, and they have the ability and they want to be physically active. Physical literacy, that term kind of aligns with all other subjects. So we have English literate, science literate, English literate. So we tried to put ours, just like SHAPE, we kind of combined with SHAPE America and show that physical literacy is actually something you get. Not just, oh, we played basketball and football for 6 months and that was my PE experience. We have goals, and we've got to make sure we try to meet those goals. And so that's what a physically literate person should be once they're completing those standards. So this is a nice little picture and description of what a physically literate person is. They have the skills to move, they have the motivation to move, they have the confidence to move, and knowledge and understanding. This creates fun, active for life. Okay, that's SHAPE. We kind of copied that from SHAPE. But the idea is sound. That skills, while they're important, are one component. Motivation, one component, important. We need all of these things to develop a physically literate student. Many of you, most of you, probably all of you are doing some of these things, but maybe we can identify a gap in your current teaching or a gap in these current issues you're having and use this community to try to fill those gaps where we're having problems. I did one of these yesterday and they said, what do? I got 65 kids in my gym. Okay, that's where we need to come together and start solving these problems and showing that we can do it. And so this idea of creating a physically literate person is that if we gain these components using each other, our students are going to have more or higher, better outcomes. I'll just go through the definitions with you real quick. I memorized this as has, is, knows, does, and values. So students have the skills necessary to participate. They know the implications and benefits of participating. You get them participating and they choose to participate regularly. They become physically fit. This is a tough one, especially if you're seeing your kids once a week for 30 minutes. But we can provide them skills, and that is true. That's happened at several schools. If we provide them the skills and the abilities and the motivation that no matter your current ability, but you can do something outside the class, that's how we can approach that. Don't think of this, because this is another one that teachers say to me. I see my kids once a week. How am I supposed to regulate? Are they physically fit? Probably not. You're not going to be able to do that in PE because of the time restrictions. But we can provide them everything else to have them choose to do it outside. And I know you guys spend a lot of time on that, I'm sure, in your classrooms. And then values the activity. This is a big one for me in my research. I research motivational psychology and pedagogy, so how do teachers create their classrooms to be more motivational, how they develop lesson plans to make students more involved and more intrinsically take in the information. And so valuing the activity is kind of our disconnect. I can learn how to shoot, I can learn how to dribble, I can play in PE and be okay sometimes, but I will not choose that activity outside of school if I don't value it. And so that's where we as PE teachers can go, okay, what do you value? Let's learn it. That might be something that can help bridge the gap, and we'll talk about that later too. So how do we meet these standards? How do we get a physically literate individual? We got to follow best practices, and practices have changed. Much like best practices of surgeons, of math teachers, of scientists. I know I don't want somebody from 1975 doing heart surgery on me if that was their best practice at that time. I want 2017's best practices doing heart surgery on me. That's the same thing with teaching. We've learned a lot of practices, but some of them have changed, some of them have updated, some of them have maybe aligned with what you're currently doing, but we have to be aware of them. So the first thing is providing an opportunity to learn. What does that look like? Curriculum should be developmentally appropriate. We shouldn't most likely be playing 11-on-11 football in 2nd and 3rd grade because 10 of the kids are good and the other 40 aren't very good. That wouldn't be developmentally appropriate for the whole grade. So things like that. Students should be active during class. They should have maximum participation, meaning we don't want students sitting out. We don't want them being isolated where they can't be successful. You all know and you all have experienced this. If you're not successful at something, you say, okay, I'm not doing that because I'm not very good at it. So if we only allow you a couple opportunities to be successful, oh, you failed, go sit out, I never get the practice. So 10,000 hours, right? 10,000 sets makes somebody perfect at something. And so we need to maximize that practice time, an opportunity to grow. Meaningful content, this is kind of something I mentioned earlier. Why don't we ask the kids, what do you want to do? Maybe we don't choose some of the activities. We take the standards and go, okay, here's an array of activities. What do you want to do? I'm going to use my teaching skills to break down skills, strategies, tactics, put them in a way that you can be successful playing small-sided games. But by simply asking them, we may find that they're more involved and more motivated because they're doing something they want to do. I know of teachers teaching skateboarding, geocaching, yoga, and I know that's starting to become a more popular thing, but meaningful content is important to get them to achieve the standards. Appropriate instruction, we'll talk more about that throughout today and when we break out, and we're going to do some lesson stuff and do some discussions. But basically, with appropriate instruction, we need to make sure we're meeting the needs of all the students. We lesson plan and do good lesson plans. We do small group learning. At secondary, kindergarten, or not secondary, but kindergarten, first grade, it might look a little bit different, but we need to start using group learning, especially if you have 60, 70, 80, 100 kids in your classroom. It can really alleviate a lot of your issues. So we'll talk about that. We should be promoting effort, enjoyment, rewarding people that work hard, not that are just the best, things like that. And last thing, we need to do assessment. Sorry, it was on the last one. We are the only subject in schools that assess in all 3 learning domains: physical, cognitive, and affective, meaning we should be assessing all of those domains. I am speaking on behalf of the Department of Education. This is not an assessment professional development. We are not talking about full assessment right now, okay? Because I know that's a lot of your questions. How the heck am I supposed to assess my students? That's going to be coming later. If we can master these pedagogical skills and meeting the standards, then we can talk a little bit more about assessment. But we should be evaluating our students in all 3 domains, okay? Some things I'm supposed to mention. Do not, or try to avoid activities that do not promote educational value. We know the debate right now with dodgeball, okay? I'm going to bring it up. It's going to get fiery in here, I'm sure. But if you can't provide educational value, if meaningful learning, purposeful learning, how many of you are coaches? Coaches? How many of you have your athletes practice without a purpose? Good. The same thing in PE. We should not be doing busy work. We shouldn't be doing something with an outcome. There should be a learning goal. Having people as targets promotes bullying. I'm not telling you that. Data suggests that. If we have people who are the worst get hit with the ball and then they sit out for the next 20 minutes during the game, those people who weren't very good don't get any practice. Okay? I'm not saying, I don't want to offend anybody, but there may be some ways that we can adjust dodgeball so that it's meaningful content. So that's something I was supposed to mention. Always have a learning objective and a learning target. Have progressions, which we'll talk about later. And we'll go on to some of that other stuff. Let's get into the standards. So you have your booklet in front of you. I'm going to talk a little bit about where the standards are, and we've broken the standards into clusters. And I'll get to that. K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12. So here's what we had before. We had 7 standards. If we're seeing our kids once a week, 30 times all year, that's going to be very difficult. So the first thing we did is we aligned with SHAPE, but we also looked at about 12 other states and looked at what are they doing since the newest ones that have revised. And they went to a 5 standard. Within those standards, we have GLEs, we've got components. So just like any good assessment or rubric, I have standard 5, and I probably have maybe 4 or 5 components that once I hit them, I've shown I've met this standard. So here's the cluster breakdown, and there's a primary focus. So we talked about developmental appropriateness. At K through 2, we want to start with locomotor, manipulative, and non-manipulative skills. So that should be our focus. We don't really want to get into gameplay. We don't want people being forced to only get a limited amount of activity or limited amount of practice. Those little suckers need tons of practice. So we need to put them in positions to do that. If you meet once a week, and I'm going to keep bringing this up because it's very evident, and I've worked with several elementary schools that have this, we have to narrow our focus. What can they do currently? What can they not do currently? And how do we get there? If all my kids show up the first day and they can all leap, let's not spend a lot of time on that because we only have so many lessons. So we can pick and choose somewhat to show what standards do we have time to meet and where are we actually missing. All right? That's the idea. 3rd through 5th, you should increase the difficulty, adding more than one component, locomotor, while doing a manipulative skill, providing feedback that's higher level feedback than what you were giving in K2, applying concepts, not just, okay, stand against the wall, throw. Okay, we need to go a little bit above that. We need to start making our way, adding skills together. 6 through 8 should be more of application now. Tactics and strategies, which are different than skills. We've done skills. We have a baseline of skills. We're mediocre at 3 or 4 skills by the time we get to 6th grade. Now let's put them in some game scenarios and show them how they can use those tactics to actually be successful in those games. Okay, that's the idea behind it. And when you go with me, we'll talk a lot more about that. And then 9 through 12, we do have a little bit of game focus, but we're really starting to switch to lifetime activities, individual activities, health-related fitness planning. You can take this and you can manipulate it. I will just tell you at 9 through 12, if you only play team sports all year, you will not be able to meet the standards. Because parents, stakeholders, administrators, students need to have skills that once they leave you, because this is their last chance most likely, that they can actually plan their fitness plan. They know what activities they've liked. They've gained some confidence and competence in a few skills that they can use now as their physical activity outlet once they leave you. So we'll talk a little bit about that also. Now, I was a 3-sport athlete. I love team sports. It's a major part of my life and it's part of my teaching, but we just have to know we got to expand it so that we can meet the needs of all of our learners, okay? So here we're going to break down and look at reading the standards. So you probably identified your cluster. Hopefully, if you haven't, kind of look through and find where your cluster is. So we have our first number, which is the 5, and that's going to represent what standard we're looking at. So just reading through this. So obviously, this can be 1 through 5. All right? The K, so on this side of the hyphen, on the left side, you have a number, dot, and this can be a number or a letter because kindergarten would be K. This could be 1 through 8. So standard 5, grade, this one is kindergarten. It could say 8, 5, whatever it is for you. So now I'm at standard 5, I'm in kindergarten. Now I go on the other side of the dash. Here's 1, that's my first component. So if you look at the K through 8 standards, you're gonna have several components. Maybe 1, maybe 3, maybe 5, maybe 6. This identifies the first component, and then you'll have another one that this will probably be your expectation for that component. Why do you need to be able to identify these? Because we're going to unpack the standards. Best practices suggest, and through my research, and not mine, but you know, this is evidence-based learning, is that you pick your standard and go, here's what I got to meet, here's what I think I can meet in one school year. Then you make your activity choice. Traditionally, what we've done is go, I'm going to play football in the beginning of fall, then volleyball, then basketball, then rugby or whatever it is that you do. We want to get a little bit away from that because we can't meet all the standards if we only do those activities. Can you use some team sports? Yes, you can. But what we need to do is pick the standards first that we need to isolate versus picking the game and then going, well, I hope we reach some of the standards with this activity. So performance indicators K through 8. This is going to help because, let me segue for a second. In Louisiana, we have a really high percentage of elementary teachers who are not PE teachers because the school won't pay for one. So they tell, okay, 3rd grade teacher, or we're going to hire a para, you need to teach PE. And they go, I have no idea where I'm supposed to start. This can help you, but you as professionals, you probably have a little bit better idea of this. But basically, I'm going to introduce a skill. That's going to make it emerging. First time they get exposure to it, most likely, for the majority of my students. As I get to my next grade level or another unit, I might show that they're maturing, meaning they're starting to really master that skill. They're starting to get proficient. Then, when I actually do assessments and I know that they've achieved it, I look at applying. So what's a GLE? I'm assuming, and I'm sure that many have heard this, but just so you know, it indicates a specific skill that a student should know or be able to do. You should be providing a GLE to your teachers, to your students that says by the end of this unit, the end of this lesson, this is what the student should be able to do at a proficient level. That's the idea behind the GLE. When you meet the GLEs under your component, you've met the benchmark of your standard. All right? So this is our K through 2 GLEs. This is a little bit different than secondary, and I'll talk about secondary in a minute. You've got kindergarten first and second. You've got your skills or knowledge, which is standard 1. Health reasons to be, or this might be standard 3, standard 5. So basically, here's our GLE. This was our outcome, our objective. Recognizing physical activity has possible health benefits. Again, for those teachers that maybe are like, I'm not sure I can meet that objective, they've never had any training, we've provided examples. Those are not inclusive. You can define that a different way. But those are just examples that can help guide you if you need that help. So this is just an example. We've got K, 1, and 2. The great thing about this is most of you who teach K through 2, you know where do they need to be at the end. And here's my steps and my progress toward that. Okay? 9 through 12 is a little bit different. State of Louisiana says that we get 3 units of PE. One of them is health. So 2 units of PE. So we have high school 1 and high school 2 is what we've labeled it. So basically that very first semester or very first compulsory PE would be high school 1. The second semester, whenever they take it, that's going to be high school 2. We've tried to make these very congruent. but force teachers and force students to get experiences in more than just 3 or 4 things. So we're going to play some team sports. We're going to have some lifetime activities. We're going to have an individual sport. We're going to have maybe some outdoor adventure education, some geocaching, something. Then we're going to come back the next semester, and maybe we're going to play a new sport and a new lifetime activity. So that's kind of the idea behind the secondary ones, and the focus with developing a health-related fitness plan and knowing the skills to do that. So the 1 stands for the standard. HS1 is high school 1, so I just told you high school 1 and high school 2 are the options there, and then -3, which is the component. There's only a couple components that have more than one little GLE you have to meet. Usually for secondary, 1 standard, 1 component, and you're going to meet maybe 2 or 3 of those in a unit. Then you're going to go to the next one and meet 2 or 3, and then the next one. So it's a little bit different. We get less class periods than the elementary does. Here's what it looks like. Component, -1. High school level 1, high school level 2. So building a lesson, this is important. The first thing you got to have are, what are your standards, what are your objectives? You have to have that, because if you're not putting that, you have no focus for where this unit or this lesson is supposed to go. The more information you provide, the more likely as a student and as an administrator and a parent, I know, what are you trying to get my kid to do? We expect that in math, we expect it in English, we expect it everywhere else, we should expect it in PE also. So we have our standards, we have our objectives. Writing a clear objective is very difficult to write a really good one. I follow the ABCD pattern. You have to identify the audience, the behavior, the condition, and the degree of achievement. If you can list those 4 things in a sentence, you've shown this is a quality objective and it's reasonable for my students to achieve that. After that, you list some assessments. We often use cognitive assessments, so I'll give you a paper pen, maybe a little test or quiz. I'll ask you, give me the skill cues for throwing, 2nd grader or 1st grader. For high school, I may say you need to show me an explanation of how health-related fitness can improve your well-being. Affectively, little kids, great ones, thumbs up. You know, how did you do today not running into others? Those are all basic, informal, formative assessments. Lastly, planning and equipment. This is a big one with me when I teach my future teachers, because they go, oh yeah, I know what to do. We're going to have our introduction. I'm going to teach them a skill, and then we're going to go play a game. And then they walk out there, and about 10 kids of the 100 kids class are actually doing what they asked them to do. The more you plan, and veteran teachers, I know you're like, I did my planning, I did my lesson planning. I understand that. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to think about, when you start setting up your units for your curriculum, of planning more detail to increase activity, increase practice, reduce management, reduce transitions. That all comes from proper planning, so that's something you want to start doing, and having equipment set up, and we're going to demonstrate some of that out here. So let's be done with me talking, and we're going to go to our breakout session and some things we'll have you guys look for. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Governor's Games 2017 Tour de Fitness.
All right, so now it's our activity time. So we're fixing to break up into 2 groups. Elementary is going to stay in here with Angela, and then if you're secondary, so middle school or high school, you're going to head to the library with Kelly, and we're fixing to do some physical activity, okay? So before we break out, I want to ask y'all, as you're participating in these lessons, I want you to pay attention to how Kelly and Angela handled these 5 areas within the lesson, okay? So how do they manage the students? How do they manage themselves? Think about the transitions from one activity to the next. Their feedback. Are they giving you general feedback on skills or behavior? Think about all these things as they're talking. How do they handle equipment? Progression throughout the lesson. And then next steps. So after this lesson, if you were teaching this unit, where would you go next? What would be the next step? What would be the next lesson? Or if you have questions, think about those. So what we're going to do is we're going to be in 2 different groups. After the lesson, y'all are going to do a gallery walk. And we're basically going to have posters with all these topics. And you're going to be in small groups, and you'll visit all of the posters, and you'll write questions or write your statements. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back together, and we're going to compare all these topics, elementary to secondary. Because as Kelly mentioned, it's very important to know where our students came from and where they're going. So even though you're an elementary teacher, it's important to see, well, how might this be different management style for secondary, because maybe next year you get moved to a middle school or a high school, okay? And then vice versa. At secondary, this is what my students should be doing, or this is how I should be teaching and managing, but what does elementary do, okay? And then after we compare the gallery walk, we will have some closing statements and some feedback and question and answer time.
All right, again, my name's Angela Simonton. I am at Magnolia Woods this year. Last year I was at Glasgow Middle, so I'm going to be presenting you guys with the elementary lesson. Throughout our lesson today, I want you guys to focus on the pedagogy and the content development. So how do I progress the students throughout the lesson? What's my objective? How am I getting you to reach your objective? So there's multiple activities that might reach your GLEs. So you got to go through, identify multiple activities, and then decide which one is going to help your students achieve them. It's important to note that not all of your standards are going to be met with one activity, okay? So we can't be playing basketball all year because we have other standards that we need to be reaching. We need to be reaching the affective domain as well, okay? So not all of the standards can be met with one single activity. It is possible, however, to meet several benchmarks with one activity, okay? So you might have that, and we'll talk about that in terms of this lesson as well. After you unpack your standards, you go through a scope and sequence, okay? So what am I going to teach? When am I going to teach it? What standards and benchmarks am I going to address? And how am I going to assess those standards and benchmarks within that unit? After you develop your scope and sequence, then you can go on to unit planning. When you unit plan, you need to use verbiage from your GLEs to develop your unit goals. So I go through for team handball after I've decided which GLEs match team handball, or excuse me, which GLEs will go within my unit, okay? Sorry. I use verbiage from the GLEs to develop my unit goal. So, for example, here's standard 1. I have 2 GLEs, catch a variety of objects in dynamic conditions using the critical elements. Send an object to a target using critical elements in a stable environment. I can also target standard 2, GLE, modify movement to meet the demands of a task. I've also been able to target standard 4, identify and follow equipment-specific safety rules, work cooperatively with a partner or small group during class activities. After looking at all those, I'm going to show you guys my unit objective, demonstrate and explain the major skill cues related to throwing, catching, and finding open space in an invasion game setting, while demonstrating developmentally appropriate, socially responsible behavior through teamwork. Notice how right here, work cooperatively with a partner or small group. That targets my socially responsible behavior through teamwork, okay? Catching a variety of objects in dynamic conditions, so we're focusing on catching. Sending an object to a target, we're focused on throwing. Finding open space, okay? So notice how my unit goal matches the GLEs that I have targeted within this lesson. The length of your units need to be appropriate for the number of skills that you're teaching. So if I'm teaching throwing and catching, I need to provide a unit length that's long enough for them to have lots of practice throwing and catching for them to be competent enough to reach those goals, okay? So I can't have lesson 1 throwing, lesson 2 catching, and then my third lesson they're doing stations and I'm assessing them. That's not enough practice. They're not able to achieve that GLE. Following unit planning, then you go into your lesson planning. It's no longer basketball, first lesson, we're working on dribbling. Lesson 2, we're working on shooting. Lesson 3, we're working on passing. 4, 5, and 6, we're playing the parent game, okay? We need to be able to progress the students through our learning objectives. They need to be learning from their previous lessons, okay? We need to scaffold, and they need tons and tons of repetition. If we focus on dribbling day 1 and we don't touch it the rest of the unit, they're not going to become competent at dribbling, okay? So how are we able to say that they've reached that objective? Within lesson planning, within any lesson, especially at the lower at the elementary level, you need to include what's called IERA, okay? And that's how we develop our content within our lesson. So we need to use IERA to develop our content. I stands for informing, the informing task. So if I'm teaching you how to underhand toss, my informing task would be the skill demonstration and the skill practice, okay? E stands for extension. How do I make that harder? Well, can you take 3 steps back from your partner? That's an extension. Extensions can also go backwards. If kids aren't able to underhand toss from here to here, maybe we need to move them closer, okay? So it can go both directions depending on what your students are demonstrating at that time. Are they able to be proficient at the activity that you're currently demonstrating or you're currently having them participate in? R stands for refinement. So how can we increase the quality of that skill? So if I am teaching them overhand throw and I see them going like this, well, I'm going to stop them. Boys and girls, I'm not seeing you guys show me an L-shaped arm. This time I want you to focus on showing me an L-shaped arm and throw, okay? So we need to increase the quality of their skill. And then A stands for applying. What's your application task? How are we getting you into an authentic situation where you're using this skill, okay? Within this lesson, you guys are also going to see something that we call PTP, which is play, teach, play, okay? I would not use this at K1-2. I would use this more for 3 through 5 or 3 through 6, okay? We'll play a game. I'm going to teach you the skill, and then we're going to play another game so you can apply that skill, okay? And then finally, management. We need to have really good management in order for our lessons to go well. To increase that physical activity time, to increase that practice time, we have to have good management. It starts with established rules and expectations. How are they getting into the gym? Okay? What are they doing as soon as they get into the gym? You need to have start and stop signals. We can use music. We can use freeze when I say go if you don't have music. How's your equipment set up? I have our equipment already set up when they get into the classroom. How's equipment taken down, okay? I don't ever let my students, or I don't ever pick up my equipment myself. I make the students do it. There's one of you, and there's 30, however many of them, okay? Make them pick up the equipment. It makes it so much quicker. They get more activity time. And then positive pinpointing. If you see kids that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, if you say, Sally, I love how your equipment's on the floor right now. Everybody else usually is going to do what? Put their equipment on the floor, okay? And that helps you in the classroom increase your physical activity time. So those are some of the things that we're going to be using in this lesson today. I want you guys to be thinking about what is going on in the lesson, how it's progressing. Am I using IERA, management, all of those things, okay? Are you guys ready? All right, sounds good. Okay, when I say go, you are going to leave everything in your chairs except for your bodies. You're gonna bring your bodies and you're gonna place them along this black line right here. You have 5 seconds. Go. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back to the Governor's Games 2017 Tour de Fitness.
Okay, today, boys and girls, today, we're going to start with an activity that we played last class. Wink, wink, all right? It's called throwing for accuracy. You need to make sure that you are not throwing between others, and if a ball rolls into your space, you need to make sure that you are not throwing at the person who is trying to retrieve their ball. Wait until they clear to throw the ball again. You can choose to stand on poly spots or you can just find an open space to throw. Okay, you're going to rock, paper, scissors with your partner. Winner's gonna find a ball. Wait, when I say go, I'm sorry. When I say go, you're gonna play rock, paper, scissors. Winner finds the ball, the other partner's gonna find an open space to throw in. You may get started when you get there. Go. You have 10 seconds. 10 seconds. 9, woo! 8, woo! 7, 6, 5, you may start when you get there. Excellent job turning your side to your target, Devin. Woo! Freeze. Last class we were focused on throwing for accuracy, but we need to be able to overhand throw in order to do that, right? Correctly. I'm seeing a lot of people just passing back and forth. I want to see you side to target, L-shaped arm, and throw. Side to target, L-shaped arm, and throw. Go! Woo! Nice side to target. I don't know names, so I'm going to try and work around that. Find a new partner, somebody with their arm raised. Perfect, perfect. Nice job, Bonnie. I love how your sides to your targets. Don't forget to turn your side to your target. Beautiful L-shaped arm. Nice job. Excellent. When I say go, excuse me, I need you to get into groups of 4 or 5. 4 or 5, I'll let you choose. Once you are in a group of 4 or 5, I need you to sit down with your group so I know that you are a group. Go. You have 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, nice job. I love how this group sat down quickly. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Excellent, nice job. Now, we are going to start with a game called PAMO. And I'm going to use this group as my demonstrators, all right? That's all right. Okay, so you 5, hop up for me real quick. 5, 4, 3. I need one person with a foot in the hoop. The rest of you need to find a spot to stand on. Go. 5, any spot to stand on, any spot to stand on. Okay, as soon as he passes, he is going to move to a different spot, okay? He can go to any spot in the gym. He just has to move to a different spot, okay? Okay. Go! Go! All your balls! Woo, we got lots of people! Woo! Ooh, great cat sprint! Great job! Keep it up, keep it up, here we go! Ooh, keep going, keep going. Okay, go ahead and hang out. Cheer everybody else on if you're done. Woo! Yeah, keep it up, keep it up. Nice job, Orange, hustle back, hustle back. Woo! Oh yeah, we got yellow. Everybody cheer on yellow. Here we go, yellow. One more ball, one more ball. Woo! I love how you're catching and throwing on the spots. Wonderful job, and in the hoop. Excellent, hustle back, yellow. Nice job. Okay, clap once if you can hear me. Hands on your knees, toes, knees, ears, mouth. All right, are you ready? Go, 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Bananas! Bananas! Woo! way to look for space. Excellent, Bonnie, way to move quickly to your space. Woo! Ooh, I love how you're calm to the ball. Beautiful. Nice job, Yellow. Way to move quickly to your space. Ooh, cheer on Yellow. Here we go. They got one more. Here we go, Yellow. Woo! Here we go, Yellow. One more. Nice job. Way to come back and touch your hoop. Ooh. Woo, yeah. Here we go. Nice job. Move quickly to space. Nice job. Way to move quickly to space. Excellent. There you go, Yellow. Yeah, Yellow. Woo! Here we go. Okay. We're going to do one more refinement, okay? I see a lot of people just running around, whoop, catching the balls. What should you do if you want the ball? Ball, 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 ball. Okay, so we're gonna play one more time. I want you to call for the ball. Focus on calling for the ball, all right? Again, we're gonna be going to a different hoop, somewhere opposite of you. First team to get to that hoop claims it. Okay, one person's foot in the hoop, the rest of you spread out. When you hear bananas, you may begin. Bananas! Oh, beautiful. Nice job calling for the ball. Ooh. Nice job. Oh, I love how you call for the ball. Ooh, that's all right. That's all right. Brant, don't forget to call for the ball. Oh, nice job calling for the ball. Excellent. Ooh. Ooh, what do you got to do? Nice job. There you go. Brant, thanks for calling for the ball. Nice job calling for the ball, Mrs. Blakes. Woo! Nice job, great hustle. Here we go. Don't forget to call for the ball. There we go, hustle back. Ooh, Yellow, here we go, Yellow. Woo! Woo, nice job, great hustle. We do have national standards developed through NASP, and this was our version of the NASP standards. So we didn't adopt the national standards, but we took them and we developed standards that are specific to Louisiana teachers and children so that they can focus on our children, because we have different needs than other states, and so we made them our own.
The Governor's Games 2017 Tour de Fitness, brought to you by Your View. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Governor's Games 2017 Tour de Fitness.
All right, clap once if you can hear me. Clap twice if you can hear me. All right, Stephanie, right? Can you tell me one of the skill cues for passing and moving? Call for the ball, excellent. Okay, can anybody tell me another one by raising their hand? Noah. Move to open space. Good, nice job, okay? And what's the last one? What do we have to do first, right after we throw the ball? We have to do what? Look for space. We have to look for space, okay? So we gotta look for space, move there quickly, and we have to call for the ball, okay? Now, in that lesson, I may have provided some people feedback related to the overhand throw. Do we have to be able to overhand throw in team handball? Yeah, so you can kind of direct kids as you see fit on how to overhand throw. If you see they're not stepping with the correct foot, you can say, oh, Brent, don't forget to step with your opposite foot, okay, as you walk around. But a lot of my feedback was related to passing and moving, okay? Now, show me your thumb on how well you moved safely today. Thumbs up is awesome, thumb side kinda, Not so much. Ooh, let's see, I'm checking some thumbs. Ooh, excellent. I agree with those thumbs. I didn't see anybody running into others too much today, so I agree with that. Nice job.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Our hope was that maybe you found something you already do good, because all of you are out there grinding every day and you do a lot of great stuff. Hopefully you shared that with somebody else and helped them. Maybe you saw something, one little niche we can change. I talked with a couple people about, here's the good things I'm doing. Here's one thing I could add to just continue to do a good job. So we hope you learned some skills. I know we kind of played some fun games, but remember, teaching is a skill and we need those skills also. So I hope you guys got something from that. If you want more games, you want to improve teaching, or you want to share the things that you do, join Layford. Come to the conference, have a session. Come talk with us. If you need to be energized, which I know in November, December, I'm about ready to rip people's heads off. Come to PE or come to Layford and get around PE people and get rejuvenated and learn some new things.
The Governor's Games 2017 Tour de Fitness, brought to you by YourView. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Governor's Games 2017 Tour de Fitness.
Well, today I provided the lesson on elementary, targeting several GLEs and a couple standards to show them, how to use best practices so that they can achieve the new standards.
If we allow every kid to be active, I mean, just think of it, you know, and it's like sitting in a chair all day. These kids need to go to recess, they need to go to PE, and they need to be actively involved in the lesson and moving.
Our focus is for children to develop the skills to be active later on in life. It's not just on, you know, it is for them to get some moderate to vigorous physical activity, but we want them to learn something. We want them to be able to develop those skills to be active, to later on choose to participate in those, you know, intramural sports programs and things like that, because as soon as we get pushed out of high school, those activity tends to drop, and so we would like them to have more skills so they can have those opportunities and choose to be more active later on. It's a really good opportunity for us to show what physical education should look like, and hopefully these people experiencing it, they can get kind of the concept around, well, this is what physical education should look like, and this is what activity should look like in the classroom.
Okay, thank the presenters one more time. Rudy Macklin from the Governor's Council. I think he had to leave. Michael Como for his help with the Department of Education. Kaylin, I know we just thanked him, but let me just say again. Angela, Kaylin, Kelly, thanks for the few who got here early to help me set up. I appreciate all your help. Please use this in your classrooms, please. When I come out, I would love to see every kid active in what they do.
We had a great time here today, and for next year, we're going to continue to train teachers throughout the state to improve the overall health of our children in the state of Louisiana.